Your Harley was built to meet regulations first and performance second, which means it may not be running at its full potential. After years of working on Milwaukee iron, I have learned which upgrades and maintenance tricks make the biggest difference in power, heat, and long-term reliability. Today, I'm sharing 10 of the most effective ones, including the simple habit that helped my twin cam reach 140,000 miles without a single oil leak. Number 10. The heat management fix. Harley buried in the fine print. If you ride a twin cam or an air-cooled big twin, you already know the problem. That rear cylinder cooks your right leg at every stoplight. Here's what Harley won't say out loud. These engines run lean and hot from the factory specifically to pass emissions, and that heat is quietly aging your top end. The rear cylinder runs hotter than the front because it sits in the front cylinder's airflow shadow, and the factory tune makes it worse. The trick nobody at the dealership will suggest: pull the front exhaust and check whether you've got the factory restrictive setup, then address the tune first. But the free part is this: stop idling your air-cooled bike for long stretches. These engines are designed to be cooled by airflow, not by sitting still. If you're stuck in traffic on a hot day and the rear jug is heat-soaking, shut it off at long lights. Harley even added parasitic rear cylinder parade mode on later bikes that shuts the rear cylinder off at idle, proof they know exactly how bad the heat is. On older bikes, you do it manually. This one costs nothing and directly extends the life of your rear cylinder, valve guides, and oil. But heat is only half the story. Now watch what happens next. Number 9. The closed-loop fuel trap that's starving your engine. Your fuel-injected Harley is running lean in the exact RPM range you spend most of your time riding in. And that isn't an accident. It's how the motorcycle was programmed from the factory. During steady cruising, the engine control module operates in what's called closed-loop mode, constantly reading the oxygen sensors and adjusting the fuel mixture to maintain a chemically ideal 14.7:1 air-fuel ratio. That number is perfect for helping the catalytic converter reduce emissions and meet increasingly strict environmental regulations. But it isn't the ratio that makes an air-cooled V-twin happiest. These engines generally run smoother, cooler, and produce better throttle response with a slightly richer mixture, typically somewhere between 13.2:1 and 13.8:1 depending on the engine combination and riding conditions. The factory calibration prioritizes emissions compliance over maximum rideability, which means the engine spends much of its normal cruising life operating leaner than what is mechanically ideal. That lean condition is why many Harley riders notice light surging while holding a steady throttle, popping or crackling from the exhaust during deceleration, hesitation when rolling back onto the throttle, and a tremendous amount of heat radiating from the cylinders and exhaust, especially on hot days or in slow-moving traffic. A lean mixture burns hotter than a richer one, raising combustion temperatures and transferring more heat into the engine, exhaust valves, cylinder heads, and exhaust system. Over thousands of kilometers, that extra heat increases stress on engine components while also making the motorcycle less comfortable to ride. It's one of the biggest reasons riders complain that their Harley feels excessively hot in city traffic, even though the bike is technically operating exactly as it was designed to from the factory. The fix the dealer won't offer for free: a tuner, a Power Vision, a Dynojet Power Commander, or a Screamin' Eagle Street Tuner lets you widen those fuel tables and take the bike out of that emissions-driven lean zone. On a stock bike, you'll gain smoother throttle, less heat, and the deceleration popping usually vanishes on the first tune. This is the single highest value change you can make, and it's illegal only in the sense that it modifies the emissions calibration, which is exactly why Harley leaves it locked. Every serious Harley shop tunes bikes daily. The factory just won't ship them that way. A tune wakes the engine up, and the next entry proves the point perfectly. Number 8. The intake restriction hiding behind that pretty chrome cover. Pop the air cleaner cover off a stock Harley and look at what's actually feeding the engine. Behind the styling is a restrictive backplate and a small filter element sized for noise and emissions compliance, not airflow. Harley intentionally chokes intake because a quieter intake sells better in the showroom and helps the bike pass sound and emissions testing. The trick is a high-flow air cleaner, a Screamin' Eagle heavy breather. an Arlen Ness, a Vance and Hines VO2, or even just a K&N element with an opened backplate. You'll feel the throttle response sharpen immediately. The critical part nobody tells beginners: an intake swap changes your air-fuel ratio, so it must be done alongside the tune from Trick 9. Slap on a big breather without retuning and you'll actually run leaner and hotter, worse than stock. Done right, intake plus tune is the classic first stage that transforms how the bike pulls. Now the engine's breathing in, and this next one explains why. Number 7. The exhaust baffle secret that's crushing your torque. Factory Harley exhaust is heavy, restrictive, and tuned for a decibel meter. The stock head pipes often have a crossover and catalytic restriction, and the mufflers are packed to be quiet. That back pressure isn't helping low-end torque the way old-timers claim. Modern V-twins want to scavenge exhaust efficiently. The trick? A proper catback or full exhaust. Vance and Hines, Reinhardt, S&S, or at minimum, addressing the restrictive stock baffles. But here's the part that separates people who know from people who just want loud. Exhaust is the third leg of the tripod. Intake, exhaust, and tune are a system. Change the exhaust and your air-fuel ratio shifts again, so the tune has to account for it. The riders who bolt on loud pipes and nothing else usually make less usable power than stock and just annoy their neighbors. Do all three, the Stage 1 Trinity, and a stock twin cam or M8 picks up real rideable torque everywhere. That Trinity unlocks the engine, and that leads us directly to the next example. Number 6. The clutch adjustment dealerships charge you to ignore. Here is one that costs you nothing but 10 minutes and a wrench. Harley clutches, especially on cable-actuated big twins, drift out of adjustment as the cable stretches and plates wear. A clutch that is out of spec either slips under load, robbing you of the power you just paid to unlock, or drags, making the bike hard to shift and creepy at stops. Most riders never touch it until something goes wrong. The trick? Adjust the clutch yourself. Loosen the cable, pull the derby cover, back the adjuster screw out, then turn it in until it lightly seats and back it off a quarter to a half turn per your model's spec. Then set the cable free play, usually about 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch at the lever. The result is crisp shifts, full power transfer, and no more searching for neutral at a red light. The dealer charges an hour of labor for a job you can do in your garage with the bike on the side stand. On hydraulic clutches, as in many M8s, this is self-adjusting, but cable bikes desperately need it and almost never get it. And this is where things get fascinating. Before we continue, everything in this video comes straight from Ride Longer, Spend Less, the complete motorcycle maintenance handbook. The full system, every step and every number we couldn't fit here. Scan the QR code on your screen to get your copy, and let's get back to it. Number 5. The suspension downgrade. Harley ships on purpose. Stock Harley suspension, particularly on the touring and softail lines, is set up soft and undersprung for a plush showroom feel, and it's frankly the weakest part of most stock bikes. The rear shocks are often underdamped, and the fork oil is a compromise. Ride it hard or two up and it wallows, bottoms out, and kills your confidence in corners. The trick? This is the best money you'll spend on the bike, and the dealer rarely brings it up. Progressive suspension, Öhlins, or Legend air shocks in the rear, and a fork cartridge kit or heavier fork oil and springs up front. Even just properly setting your rear preload for your actual weight, free, sharpens the bike immediately. Riders spend thousands chasing engine power and ignore that the chassis is what's actually scaring them in corners. Fix the suspension and the whole bike transforms more than any bolt-on ever will. Now the bike handles. And that brings us to the next discovery. Number 4. The primary and transmission fluid interval they stretch to sell warranties. Harley's service intervals for primary chain case and transmission fluid are longer than what actually keeps the driveline healthy, especially if you ride hard, ride hot, or ride in stop and go. The primary fluid takes a beating. It is lubricating the clutch and chain under enormous shear, and it shears down and loads up with clutch material faster than the manual admits. The trick? Change your primary and transmission fluid more often than the book says, every 10,000 to 15,000 miles rather than stretching it. and use a proper Harley spec or quality aftermarket fluid, Spectro, Redline, or Amsoil. Better yet, separate your fluids if your model shares them. Many riders run a dedicated primary fluid and a dedicated gear oil in the transmission rather than one compromise fluid in both. You will get smoother shifts, longer clutch life, and quieter driveline. It is a $40 job that prevents a very expensive one. Fresh fluid protects the driveline. Now we step into the next chapter of the list. Number 3. The torque spec check that prevents a catastrophe. This is the one I get almost angry about. There are critical fasteners on a Harley that are known to work loose from vibration, and a big twin's vibration is no joke. The pinch bolts on the front axle, the rear axle nut, the swing arm pivot, and especially the primary and transmission mounting hardware and derby inspection cover bolts. Harley torque specs them, but they don't tell you to recheck them, and vibration walks them loose over time. The trick? Buy a torque wrench and get the factory torque specs for your model, then periodically check the safety-critical fasteners, axle nuts, caliper bolts, pinch bolts, engine and transmission mounts. Blue thread locker on the ones that keep backing out. This costs almost nothing, and it's the difference between a bike that stays together at 80 miles per hour and one that doesn't. Vibration is the enemy on these engines, and every mile your Harley travels is another opportunity for that constant shaking to loosen the hardware holding the motorcycle together. The torque applied at the factory assembly line is a starting point, not a lifetime guarantee. Heat cycles, road impacts, and the natural pulse of a big V-twin gradually work fasteners loose, even on perfectly maintained bikes. That's why experienced Harley owners don't assume critical bolts are still tight just because no warning light has appeared. A few times each riding season, spend 10 minutes with a quality torque wrench checking the fasteners the service manual identifies as critical. Pay particular attention to engine and transmission mounts, exhaust mounting hardware, brake caliper bolts, axle nuts, handlebar clamps, riser bolts, foot controls, and suspension mounting points. Always tighten them to the manufacturer's specified torque values rather than simply making them feel tight, since over-tightening can be just as damaging as leaving them loose. This quick inspection not only prevents annoying rattles and parts vibrating off the bike, but can also stop dangerous failures before they happen. A loose exhaust bracket is an inconvenience, but a loose brake caliper, axle, or handlebar fastener can become a genuine safety emergency in an instant. 10 minutes with a torque wrench, a few times each season, is one of the cheapest forms of insurance you can buy, and it can literally save your motorcycle, or even your life. Everything we've covered so far is about keeping the bike running strong, reliable, and ready for the next ride. Number 2. The oil temperature truth. Harley hides behind 20W50 and Go. Air-cooled Harleys live and die by their oil, because in these engines, the oil is not just a lubricant, it is one of the primary cooling systems keeping the entire top end alive. The factory manual talks about oil changes and viscosity, but it does not emphasize just how much heat that oil is responsible for carrying away. Every time the engine runs, the oil is flowing through the heads, around the valves, the rocker assemblies, and other high-temperature components, absorbing heat that would otherwise stay trapped in the engine. In other words, the oil is doing double duty, lubricating moving parts while simultaneously acting as a heat transfer medium. The problem is that air-cooled Harleys can generate enormous heat when they are ridden in hot climates, stuck in stop-and-go traffic, idling for long periods, climbing grades, or carrying extra weight. Under those conditions, oil temperatures can climb far higher than many riders realize. As the oil gets excessively hot, its viscosity drops, the protective film between metal surfaces becomes thinner, and its ability to resist wear starts to decline. Once the oil is pushed beyond the range where it can effectively protect and cool the engine, the top end takes the punishment first. Valve guides, rocker components, piston rings, and cylinder walls all experience increased stress. The worst part is that many Harleys leave the factory without an oil temperature gauge, so riders have no idea how hot the oil is actually getting. The bike may still be running normally, yet the oil could already be operating in a range where protection is significantly reduced. That is why riders who spend a lot of time in heavy traffic or extreme heat should pay close attention to oil condition, use the correct high-quality oil for their climate, shorten change intervals when necessary, and consider monitoring oil temperature if they regularly ride in demanding conditions. Clean, high-quality oil at the right temperature is one of the biggest factors determining whether an air-cooled Harley ages gracefully or wears itself out far earlier than it should. The trick? 2 parts. First, run a quality full synthetic in the right weight for your climate. Synthetic handles the heat these engines generate far better than conventional, full stop, and it is the cheapest insurance you can buy. Second, add an oil cooler if you ride hot or ride loaded. A spin-on oil cooler with a thermostat is one of the highest value additions for an air-cooled twin cam or Evo, and Harley sells them as accessories precisely because they know the engines need them. They just do not put them on standard. Add a simple oil temperature gauge so you can actually see what is happening. Keep the oil in its happy range, and the engine will outlive you. That is how you keep the engine alive. But trick number 1 is the one Harley fights hardest to keep you away from. And it is the reason my bike has 140,000 trouble-free miles. Next, we look at a brand that quietly changed the game. Number 1, the cam chain tensioner time bomb and the fix that diffuses it. If you ride a twin cam built roughly between 1999 and 2006, your engine contains one of Harley-Davidson's most well-known weak points, and ignoring it can destroy an otherwise perfectly healthy motorcycle. Harley essentially built a self-destruct mechanism into those early engines and never made much noise about it. The problem is the original spring-loaded cam chain tensioners. Instead of using a durable all-metal wear surface, Harley fitted them with plastic shoes that constantly rub against the timing chains while the engine is running. Every mile you ride removes a tiny amount of material from those shoes. At first, the wear is almost impossible to notice. The bike runs perfectly, there are no warning lights, and many owners have no idea anything is happening inside the cam chest. But eventually, those plastic shoes become thin enough to crack, break apart, or wear completely. Once that starts happening, the plastic debris circulates through the engine with the oil. Some of it ends up trapped in the oil filter, while the rest can find its way into critical oil passages, reducing lubrication where it's needed most. At the same time, the worn tensioner can no longer keep the timing chain properly controlled. The chain begins to slap, timing becomes inconsistent, and the entire cam drive system is placed under enormous stress. If the tensioner finally fails, the results can be catastrophic. It can destroy the cam plate, damage the oil pump, throw the cam timing out of synchronization, and in severe cases, send metal fragments throughout the engine, damaging bearings, and even the bottom end. What began as a slowly wearing plastic component can easily become a repair bill worth several $1,000s, or an engine replacement. Harley eventually addressed the problem by replacing the original spring-loaded design with hydraulic cam chain tensioners on later twin cam models. That change alone tells you the company understood the weakness of the original system. The hydraulic design maintains more consistent chain tension, reduces wear, and dramatically improves long-term reliability compared to the early setup. Here's the trick, and it's the single most important piece of advice in this entire video. If you own one of those early twin cams, don't wait for symptoms. Don't wait until you hear unusual noises. Don't wait until you find plastic fragments in the oil filter. Upgrade the system before it has the chance to fail. At a minimum, install the hydraulic cam chain tensioner conversion using quality components from companies like S&S, Fueling, or Harley's updated parts. That upgrade removes the problematic spring-loaded tensioners and replaces them with a much more durable hydraulic system. Better still, if your engine's crankshaft runout is within specification, install a gear drive cam conversion. A gear drive system eliminates the timing chains and tensioners altogether, replacing them with precision gears that never rely on plastic wear surfaces. No chains, no tensioner shoes, and no recurring wear item to inspect every few thousand miles. The key is doing the conversion while everything is still healthy, not after the engine has already started destroying itself. Preventative maintenance always costs less than rebuilding an engine. That's exactly why my own twin cam has crossed 140,000 miles without ever suffering a bottom-end failure. I made the conversion early, before the factory tensioners had a chance to become a problem. Over the years, I've watched countless riders ignore the warnings, skip the inspection intervals, or assume their bike would be the exception, only to lose perfectly good engines to a tiny piece of plastic that cost almost nothing to manufacture. Sometimes the difference between an engine that lasts 200,000 miles and one that destroys itself before 50,000 miles isn't a major design flaw. It's simply whether the owner fixed the known weakness before it had the opportunity to become an expensive catastrophe. If this gave you something to think about, subscribe and see you in the next video.